Okay, so today we're going to be talking about outlining. When we talk about outlining, many people have already thought about this when it comes to writing essays and schoolwork like that. The idea today is that outlining is not only a tool to help us write essays. It is a powerful tool that we can use in many aspects of our lives. And in writing essays, it's a tool that helps us to create, but a lot of people don't know it's also a tool that helps us to learn. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how outlining does this for us. So when we learn and when we create, we have a large concept, we're going to call it. This large concept has main ideas as represented with the squares right here. And to go down a little step further, these main ideas have supporting details. And as we see, it's a pattern that we find in textbooks, we find in essays. And we see this quite often. The idea that we have today is that this pattern can be used, yes, to create, but also to learn. Let's say we want to learn a large concept. Let's say our mother is teaching us karate. So, okay, that's a bad example. Let's say we're reading a textbook about karate, and it's got those main ideas as we talked about, and it also has the supporting details. And maybe at the end it has a summary. Here's the application. Instead of reading this textbook linearly, starting at the top and reading karate, and then moves, flexibility, and going straight down, the idea is that beforehand, we need to create a framework in our mind. How do we do this? Instead of going down linearly, we go ahead and we try to grasp the big concept. We zoom out and we read the title, we read the main ideas, maybe there's a summary in the back, and in our mind, this helps us create a framework. I'm going to use an example of a house right here. It's a framework upon which we can build and solidify. And this happens in our minds. Okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this isn't a drawing video. But there you go. We have a house. That's what happens when you build a house, is people don't just start putting brick on top of brick on top of brick. You build a framework first, and then you fill it in. Get that a little bit better. There we go. And why would we do this? Why would we seemingly waste time reading, creating a framework, and then going and reading back linearly? The idea is that all learning has to do with connections in the brain. If we look over here, if we were to just go down and read this linearly, someone's calling me, not right now. Sorry, babes. If we were to go down and read this linearly, then we wouldn't have places to connect these things other than to the main, these details other than to the main ideas. However, if we have, let's say we went and built a framework, now when we go and read it again, we can connect this not only to the main idea, but to these other ideas. And it helps us to see how these details play a part in the big picture of the large concept. So yes, there we go. It's something that we can use not only for our schoolwork, but also, let's say if our friend is teaching us something, or we're teaching them something and we want to communicate. Instead of talking about all these minor details, I think first of all it would be most effective to give them the big picture first, the large picture, and then we zoom into the little details. I think that's a way better way of communicating and receiving information. Let's see, what else? Maybe they have you doing tasks at work that could use this tool, this application of outlining. Another thing, if we're memorizing a certain something, and instead of trying to memorize everything going down, we in our brain categorize different sections first. And we say, okay, this song first talks about how this girl and this guy met. The second verse talks about how they fell in love. The third, how they broke up. And then once we have this memorized, then once we go back and learn, then we can tie these little details into those parts. And when we're trying to recall, it's like, oh, what was the third verse about? We can remember that it was when they broke up. And that will help us recall the other details that we have. So there you go. If I would put it in a sentence, is create a framework, then fill it in. It's something that will save us time. It will help us to communicate better and to, I would say, just be more effective in all aspects of our lives. Be creative. It's something that you can use in a whole lot of different situations, and that's why I think it's an idea that has great power.